Welcome back to the Something in the Wilderness podcast. We've recently been focused on what was arguably the biggest ever Andrew McMahon fan event. We're still coming down off that high. My name's Steve, and most episodes like this one have us choosing an Andrew McMahon song to discuss, sometimes with a guest and sometimes without. Occasionally, I'll discover a song that Andrew was involved with that I wasn't aware of before, and I hope that today I can share a new one with many of you. Occasionally, I referred to Andrew's recent years as his collaboration era, and this song fits right into that category. It's not his song, but he was involved in the creation of it. Since it's December, it's the only time of year that feels appropriate to discuss this particular song. And coincidentally, based upon all we've been talking about lately on the show, the song title actually begins with the word holiday. What a coincidence. We're obviously not talking about Holiday from Real this time. We're talking about a little-known track called Holiday in L.A. Until I started researching this song again this month, I forgot how long it's been around. I actually learned about this one in producer Sam Hollander's autobiography last year. I was reading along and he mentioned the project he did with some other musician friends, and I was stunned when he said that Andrew McMahon was involved. So I listened to every track on this album, and sure enough, there were Andrew's vocals on the second verse of Holiday in L.A. The artist is Band of Merrymakers. They only released one album. It wasn't officially a band, just a collection of songwriters, musicians, and producers at the time. The album was called Welcome to Our Christmas Party. It was released on October 23, 2015. The song Holiday in L.A. features the vocals of Natasha Bedingfield, Michael Fitzpatrick, who you know better as Fitz from Fitz and the Tantrums, Mark McGrath of Sugar Ray, and of course, as mentioned, Andrew McMahon. The song was track 2 of 11 holiday-themed tracks. As far as I know, this song doesn't exist anywhere else except as part of this album, and it's not something I ever heard Andrew promote or even talk about. But it is available on Spotify and presumably any other streaming services. But unlike any other collaboration songs on Spotify, it actually doesn't list all the individual artists that are on the track. It just lists them all as Band of Merrymakers, so it'll never come up when you're searching for his name. There's no official music video for the song, but Band of Merrymakers do have videos for 2 other songs from the same album. I would recommend the Must Be Christmas video. It's a lot of fun. Andrew McMahon's not in that video, but there's a lot of other artists you may or may not recognize because they're all dressed in Santa suits, kind of traipsing through a downtown area. It's a lot of fun, like I said. So as I mentioned earlier, Band of Merrymakers is a holiday music project that was put together by Sam Hollander and also by Kevin Griffin in 2014 for the purpose of raising money for charity. The reason for Andrew McMahon's involvement becomes obvious once you look into Andrew's songwriting credits from that year, and then you look at the timing of when this project came together. Kevin Griffin, who's the lead singer-songwriter for Better Than Ezra, and Sam Hollander were both professional songwriters, and they co-wrote Canyon Moon with Andrew for his 2014 self-titled Wilderness album. For some reason, I was convinced for a time that Sam Hollander co-wrote more songs with Andrew, but apparently that's the only one. It's the only one I can find, at least. I did read Sam's autobiography that came out last year, 21 Hit Wonder, which I highly recommend. It's a nod to the fact that he's written 21, and by the way, at the time of this recording, it's now 22 hit songs, as well as a lot of other songs that you and I know. Here's some big songs that you probably know that he's written. High Hopes, Look Ma, I Made It, both by Panic at the Disco. Actually, in total that I could find, he's co-written 13 songs for Panic at the Disco. He's also done The Great Escape and Love Drunk by Boys Like Girls, Check Yes Juliet and Say You Like Me with We the Kings, Hand Clap by Fitz and the Tantrums, Shake It by Metro Station, Blame It on My Youth and Happy Days by Blink-182, and About a Girl by The Academy Is. I'd suggest going to Sam Hollander's Wikipedia page, and even after that list, you might be surprised at all the songs that you know that he's written. Kevin Griffin has his own impressive list of songs he's written. Not only most every Better Than Ezra song ever released, but his own solo album as well, and he's also co-written with Boys Like Girls, A Rocket to the Moon. He wrote Breathless by Taylor Swift, that's probably his biggest one ever. And one that's relevant to a recent subject of this podcast, Counting Stars by Augustana. One of my favorite songs by them, actually. I just re-listened to this song after learning this, and I can definitely hear Kevin Griffin's songwriting in this song. Makes sense now, since I'm a huge Better Than Ezra fan. Anyway, back to the song we're talking about today. Sam Hollander and Kevin Griffin produced Holiday in L.A., as well as all 11 songs on the album. Musicians who played on this track are Josh Edmondson, all guitar, bass guitar, and drums. Billy Noble played the keyboards, and Grant Michaels did the programming. As previously mentioned, you also have the voices of Natasha Bedingfield, Fitz, Mark McGrath, and Andrew McMahon. The lines that Andrew sings will be very clear to a fan when you're listening to the song. Andrew sings the whole second verse. I assume he's singing along with the gang vocals as well throughout the choruses, but I'm not positive on that. Due to the collaborative nature of the track, I'm going to assume that most of these parts were all recorded separately by each of the singers. So usually this is where I do live history of the song, of which I have nothing. But I will just mention around this time that the album came out, Band of Merrymakers did perform on a couple of TV shows like The Jimmy Kimmel Show, The Today Show, and Extra. Andrew McMahon did not perform with them. The lineup seemed to change slightly on each of those if you look at the pictures of it, depending on who was available probably is my guess. But it seems like they only performed Must Be Christmas because that was likely the single that they were promoting, not Holiday in LA, of course. A little bit about the songwriting here. As mentioned, the idea behind this project was conceived by Hollander and Griffin. The interesting thing about this, though, is that Wikipedia states that they were discussing holiday music during a songwriting session in 2014. Now, I don't know how many songs Hollander and Griffin wrote together that year, but I do know that Canyon Moon by Andrew McMahon was written that year, and that they co-wrote it with him. So is that where the genesis of Band of Merrymakers came from? Anyway, according to Wikipedia, they noticed a lack of philanthropy and originality in holiday songs in the modern era. So they decided to create some new songs that capture the spirit of family holidays. Thus, Band of Merrymakers was born. Holiday in LA specifically was written by these guys, as well as the aforementioned Fitz and Josh Edmondson, and another professional songwriter that you may or may not have heard of named Charity Daw. She's also building quite a resume for herself. She currently writes songs for several children's TV shows, like the new Dora the Explorer, LOL Surprise Dolls, and some of my kids' favorite songs in the Disney's Descendants movies as well. More interestingly for this podcast, Andrew McMahon was not a songwriter on this song, at least according to the credits. He only sang on it. He didn't even play piano. And I would say that's pretty rare for the songs that we talk about. So I do want to talk about the lyrics, even though Andrew didn't write any of them. I would argue that this fits into the cheesy Christmas song category. The basic premise is that it doesn't really feel like Christmas in LA because it's so warm and there's no snow and it doesn't really look like Christmas. And the things that they reference that they're doing, like surfing and driving in convertibles, aren't holiday related. The only place they can see snow is if they go to the movies. There are, however, a few familiar references here for Andrew fans. That's what makes me really confused that he apparently didn't write these lyrics. He mentions Venice Beach, like in Holiday from Real. Obviously, the song title itself, as mentioned earlier, begins with the word holiday. He mentions clouds in the sky, which we know is a common theme in his music. Also the name Jack. That's a bit of a stretch considering he's mentioning Jack Frost in the song. But could it be a nod to his former band? I doubt it, but I kind of like to think so. Lastly, we have a mention of Brian Wilson. Now, Andrew never mentions Brian Wilson specifically in a song, as far as I know, but he does mention Beach Boys, and we know that Everything in Transit was inspired by the songwriting of Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys. So, final thoughts here. Do we like this song? I guess the best way to ask this question is, would we like this song if Andrew McMahon wasn't involved in it? I think it's okay. I really do enjoy finding modern Christmas songs around this time of year, though. It's nice to mix in the new songs like this one with the classics to change it up a bit. And it's always exciting to me when artists I'm familiar with create holiday-themed music. So this was a pretty fun discovery last year, but it is on some of my Christmas playlists, and yes, I have more than one of them. I have a Christmas party playlist, which is more like a family-friendly, somewhat traditional Christmas playlist. I also have a Christmas modern, which this one is on, and a Christmas best modern, which this one's now on as well. Those are more, obviously with the title, more modern sounding Christmas songs, but still family friendly. And then I also have a Christmas alternative playlist, which is not family friendly, and it has all those modern songs done by artists that you probably know that may not fit into the category of traditional, classic. Some of them are the classic songs, maybe done a little bit differently. Some of them are a little bit heavier, not something you'd put on a family party or anything. So if we're talking about Band of Merrymakers as a whole, the album is decent as far as modern Christmas albums go. I really do like Must Be Christmas, the other song, the one they were trying to promote. And it makes total sense why they used that one as the single. It did hit number 9 on the iTunes holiday charts, which apparently was a thing in 2015. I'm not sure if it still is. But that song definitely made a few of my playlists as well. I did try to find Andrew's voice on Must Be Christmas, but he's not credited on it anywhere, and I'm fairly certain that's accurate. There's one line toward the end of the song that sounds like it could have been him, and I listened to it a few times, but I know it's not. I just find it interesting how Holiday in LA came together, just the timing of it. Was Andrew already in the studio with them at some point? So they said, hey, Andrew, will you sing this verse for us? Or do they call him up after the fact and say, hey, we're doing this charity supergroup project and we just want your voice on a track? I'm assuming he recorded his part on his own and sent it over to them for all I know. It is hard to imagine how these things come together, but I get the impression that Kevin Griffin and Sam Hollander are two pretty important people in the songwriting industry. Seemingly nice guys, too. I've now actually read both of their books. Kevin Griffin released his book, The Greatest Song, also about songwriting, this past year. I did have the chance to have him sign it last year at a Better Than Ezra concert. So before I wrap up here, because it is the week of Christmas and a lot of you listen to Christmas music, I am going to give you a couple of recommendations if you are looking for modern Christmas music. Holiday Records by Newfound Glory, Ribbons and Bows by Casey Musgraves, Ho Ho Hopefully by The Maine, Cozy Little Christmas by Katy Perry, Christmas Lights by Coldplay or Yellowcard, either one works, Favorite Time of the Year by American Authors, and One More Sleep by Leona Lewis. And I also want to recommend a few off of my Christmas alternative playlist. You can't go wrong with the Weezer Christmas album from about 15 years ago. It had songs like Silent Night, O Come All Ye Faithful, We Wish You a Merry Christmas, O Holy Night, The First Noel, and Hark the Herald Angels Sing. I will say they're pretty standard covers, but definitely done in the Weezer style. Anne Boleyn's cover of Baby Please Come Home, Father Christmas by Bad Religion, Not Another Christmas Song by Blink-182, This Christmas I'll Burn It to the Ground by Set It Off, The Lights and Buzz by Jack's Mannequin, of course, Snow by Newfound Glory, My Christmas List by Simple Plan, and I can't leave this list without giving a shout out to Wheatus's Christmas Dirtbag. If you've never heard it, you gotta check that one out. I want to thank everyone for listening. You know, I love talking about Andrew's music, and sometimes I like to find ways to incorporate other music-related topics into the discussion. So if you're listening to this, thank you for that opportunity. We'll be back with more Andrew McMahon-centered song episodes after the new year, and I have a bit of a theme coming up, but if you know what's coming up in the world of Andrew McMahon, I think you can guess. Happy holidays, everyone. Whichever you and your family celebrate, I hope you do enjoy something special this time of year. I don't typically make New Year's resolutions, but I'll state one today. I will see Jack's Mannequin at least once this year, if not multiple times. So here's hoping we get the tour announcement in our stocking this year. Happy New Year to all. Let it ring in. Everybody's singing when we get that feeling.